Hey now, it's time for another episode of Wrestling's Greatest Moments. Randy Macho Man Savage versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat's WrestleMania III match is still regarded as one of the greatest WrestleMania matches ever. However, you might not know the full story of the build-up to this game-changing bout, or the intrigue involving the players, including why Randy Savage rubbed wrestlers the wrong way, why Savage considered Steamboat as his perfect opponent, the WWF legend whose career was capped off at WrestleMania, and why Ricky Steamboat's WWF career never recovered after WrestleMania III. Sit back as Wrestling's Greatest Moments looks at the greatest WrestleMania match of all time, Ricky Steamboat versus Randy Savage. Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat entered the WWF in 1985, with both superstars making an immediate impression. Steamboat worked in the undercard at the first WrestleMania and soon was feuding with one of the WWF's top heels, former Intercontinental Champion, the Magnificent Morocco. Meanwhile, Savage was courted by the WWF's managers, each of whom wanted to sign wrestling's hottest free agent. This intriguing storyline led to a payoff when Savage chose the beautiful Miss Elizabeth as his manager, an unknown to the wrestling world, but someone who would forever be associated with Savage's career. By 1986, both Steamboat and Savage were established as two of the WWF's top stars, behind WWF champion Hulk Hogan. When Randy Savage crossed paths with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, wrestling fans knew they were in for a real treat. Steamboat, a wrestling rarity in that he played a babyface his entire career, had shown toughness and heart while also presenting himself as a likable babyface. Savage was Steamboat's antithesis in that he flouted the rules, exuded arrogance, and was dismissive of his manager, the lovely Elizabeth. Nonetheless, both men were highly skilled performers who were still in their prime. Randy Savage was excited to wrestle Steamboat, but exactly why? According to Savage's real-life brother and fellow wrestler, Leaping Lanny Poffo, deep in his heart, Randy knew that Steamboat was the greatest babyface he had ever seen. As a good guy, a pure, absolute good guy that did high spots, sold, and made a fiery comeback. Unfortunately, being a babyface in the WWF meant that you couldn't compete for a title held by another babyface. This meant Steamboat couldn't challenge for the WWF Championship, which at the time was in a stranglehold by Hulk Hogan. In 1986, Steamboat renewed his quest for the Intercontinental Championship, a secondary but prestigious title in the WWF. Randy Savage had defended the title against various challengers, but when the two met on the November 22, 1986 episode of Superstars, it was clear Steamboat had Savage's number. For every hold Savage tried, Steamboat countered or reversed it, all the while peppering Savage with lightning-fast attacks that rivaled the Macho Man's well-established quickness. Steamboat prepared for victory, hitting a high-cross body block on the champion and covering him. Although referee Dave Hebner was groggy from being rushed during the match, he seemed ready to make the 3 count. However, referee Danny Davis, who by now had earned a reputation for favoring heels, ran in, breaking up the pin as he pretended to check on Hebner. This chicanery not only saved Savage from being pinned, it gave him the opening he needed to unleash a hellacious attack on Steamboat. Savage kneed Steamboat in the back, sending him out of the ring. The champion targeted the challenger's neck, dropping Steamboat neck first on the security barrier before placing Steamboat's neck in the barrier and delivering a flying elbow smash to it. Steamboat was unable to answer the referee's 10 count, and Savage won the match. Randy was just getting started when he grabbed the timekeeper's bell and used it to bludgeon Steamboat's throat by diving off the top rope. By now, Steamboat was done, and he sold the move with an Oscar-worthy performance that had announcer Vince McMahon screaming, "Steamboat has swallowed his tongue." The ever-helpful color commentator Jesse Ventura corrected McMahon, reminding him, "Steamboat's tongue is hanging out of his mouth." Medical personnel showed up, but Steamboat was flailing out of control and fell off the gurney twice, leading to Vince questioning the paramedics' competence. Steamboat's performance was on another level. His ability to sell an injury and make it look as real as a heart attack was honed by years of practice. Wrestlers walk the fine line between making a move look painful, or here, a serious injury, or coming off looking like a buffoon. In a 2000 interview with ESPN, the Dragon discussed how he perfected his in-ring dramatics. "A lot of times when I watch a movie, I'll pull myself away from the storyline just to watch an actor work, to watch how he cries, watch how he gets pissed off, the emotions, the facials. I remember doing that a lot throughout my career, which helped me become a babyface salesman, selling in the ring. I've watched Raging Bull a dozen times, watching Robert De Niro getting his handed to him each time during those fight scenes because it looks so real. Savage's attack on Steamboat was treated with all the seriousness of an assassination attempt on a public figure. The WWF played it up throughout the show as announcers revealed Steamboat had been taken to a hospital. However, there was plenty more drama to bring out of the attack. The scene when commentator Bruno Sammartino went backstage to check on Steamboat's condition and ran into Savage. Bruno was a beloved figure to fans. Although the living legend was semi-retired, the longest reigning champion in WWF history was no one to trifle with, something Savage learned when he ran into Sammartino and began boasting of taking Steamboat out. The normally reserved color commentator snapped, going after Savage as he called him a slime and began choking him out. Only the presence of several wrestlers stopped Sammartino from taking the Macho Man out for good. This segment was a reminder of how promoters knew to insert other wrestlers in the storylines, reminding fans that wrestlers all work in the same collective universe. It also led to several matches between Sammartino and Savage, as Sammartino sought to avenge what appeared to be a career-ending injury for the Dragon. Sammartino's battles against Savage kept heat on the Intercontinental Champion, while fans wondered whether Steamboat would ever wrestle again. Things looked grim for Steamboat. The WWF wrote Steamboat off TV with a kayfabe crushed larynx, with talk his career might be over. However, with WrestleMania III looming, cagey fans knew Steamboat was down, but not out. Vignettes aired on WWF television of the Dragon undergoing grueling physical therapy, as it looked like he might wrestle, but never speak again. In the meantime, Savage continued bragging about putting Steamboat on the shelf. Showing incredible resilience, Steamboat proved him wrong and returned during the January 6, 1987 edition of Saturday Night's Main Event, saving fellow babyface George the Animal Steele from the same fate he'd suffered just weeks before. Steele, a lovable dimwit, and that's being generous given George's intellectual abilities, battled Savage. Infatuated with Savage's manager, Miss Elizabeth, a condition shared by any red-blooded male fan, while such behavior might have landed the animal in sensitivity training at best, and probation and a restraining order at worst in today's era, this was a time of different sensibilities. Savage was furious and ready to go after Steele. That is until Ricky Steamboat showed up, ready to get some much-deserved payback. However, WWF officials intervened, restraining Steamboat and escorting him to the backstage area. Steele eventually returned, attacking Savage and chewing up a turnbuckle, adding some much-needed fiber to his diet and throwing it at his opponent. As often happened with his matches, Steele lost control, knocking the referee to the mat. This allowed Savage to grab the timekeeper's belt and clobber Steele with it for the quick 1-2-3. Randy Savage not only had to deal with persistent nemesis George Steele, but Steamboat's unlikely return. Things continued as Savage and Steamboat clashed at house shows, with Savage always finding a way to escape with the Intercontinental Championship. The two crossed paths on WWF TV, including the March 14, 1987 edition of Saturday Night's Main Event. The build-up to WrestleMania III was a masterpiece. Legendary interviewer Mean Gene Okerlund commented on how Steamboat's injury and subsequent comeback added to the WrestleMania III match. What that did was embellish the severity and nature of the match itself. I think, if anything, the backstory pushes the match a little bit more to the forefront and puts even more importance at what's taking place in the ring in front of that crowd. Steamboat agreed. From the time he dropped the bell on my throat until WrestleMania, we had a 3-month build-up. In other words, we had the time to elaborate on the storyline. If you drill into their heads week after week, and it goes for 3 months, people will have a better, fond memory of why these two guys are having this blow-off match. I don't think too much today that the guys have that luxury. We have pay-per-views a lot more frequently now than we did back in 1987. Indeed, it was a different era, with the WWF holding only 2 pay-per-views in 1987. This meant WWF superstars could let their stories develop over time. There were risks involved though, as the WWF had to find the right pace to hold the fans' interest without dragging things out so much that the fans grew bored with the storyline. While many wrestlers prepare for their matches beforehand, few, if any, wrestlers spent the time planning for matches that Randy Savage did. In fact, Savage's meticulousness was known for irking some opponents. Lanny Poffo suggested it might be OCD, while wrestler George the Animal Steele called it something else. The first time ever we were going to work each other, he came up with about 5 pages written out for a match. For him to give me that and tell me this is what we're going to do, I thought it was disrespectful. Because I've been there, I've done it. You're a new kid on the block, son. So that's how I felt about it. And I took each page, I read it, and I threw it in the garbage can. Then I said to him, just listen to me in the ring, I'll call it in the ring, and we'll have a great match. That didn't sit well with him, but that's the way it was. According to Hulk Hogan, Savage's intensity could make him come off the wrong way. Randy had one-way heat with everybody. It was one-sided heat. Randy was a great person, great performer, and one of my best friends of all time. We had one-way heat with everybody. Despite Savage's eccentricities, he knew what he wanted and what he expected in an opponent. With Steamboat, he would have an opponent who could match him in the ring and someone who would also collaborate with him. According to Randy's brother Lanny, he saw another guy the same size as you with perfect chemistry. Savage was absolutely correct. Both men had technical skills, but they also combined high-flying moves and agility to keep things moving quickly in the ring. While neither superstar was as tall as performers such as Hulk Hogan or Big John Studd, there were no 98-pound weaklings either, and they boasted phenomenal physiques. Steamboat was all in on Savage's elaborate layouts for the match. The two men wanted to create a true championship contest and keep the fans on the edge of their seats. According to Steamboat, we went less than 17 minutes and we had 21 false finishes. False finishes taking people on an up and down ride. In 2007, Ricky Steamboat recalled just how detailed their match was. We were using the yellow legal pad and writing down steps, and it got into like 100-something steps. Finally, when we got to the match top to bottom, we would then meet and quiz ourselves, and I would say, okay, I'm at step 55, it's this and this, now tell me the rest of the match. And he would go, step number 56 is this, and number 57 is this. We would go back and forth. The total package of a WrestleMania match. A storyline buildup, a hated heel and a beloved babyface, and a magnificent match with a perfect payoff to conclude a feud. Ricky Steamboat versus Randy Savage was a phenomenal fight that had everything. The fans in the Pontiac Silverdome had many reasons to attend WrestleMania III. While the Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant match was certainly a main event for the ages, the undercard featured some much anticipated matches, most of all Steamboat versus Savage. It was obvious early on that this match was going to steal the show, and steal it did. There were several supporting players in the match, including referee Dave Hebner, wrestler George Animal Steele, and of course, Miss Elizabeth. Referee Dave Hebner was handpicked by Savage, who admired the referee's ability to get around the ring while staying out of the way of the wrestlers. Steamboat once remarked of Hebner's work, Dave knew when to be there and when to disappear. Although Hebner was the best of the best, he faced a huge challenge when Savage told him what he expected during the match. Here's the deal. We're not going to put heat on the referee. Dave, if the man's shoulders are down, you count to 3, and I don't care if it ruins a finish. Whoever's shoulders are down has the responsibility to get their shoulders up, because if the fans can't believe in the finish, they lose the drama. Veteran grappler George Animal Steele played a small but pivotal role in the match. Steele had feuded with Savage for months, with the Animal's character portrayed as being smitten with Savage's manager, Miss Elizabeth. This Beauty and the Beast storyline was a good filler, but tonight, it was all about Steamboat and Savage. Finally, there was Savage's manager, Miss Elizabeth. Elizabeth, who was married to Savage, a scenario kept secret for years, played a kind, beautiful manager who was the opposite of the Macho Man. Savage verbally abused her and often used her as a human shield during matches. Miss Elizabeth garnered the fans' sympathy by putting up with Savage's nonsense. It was clear to the fans that she loved him. Why was another question, but she remained at his side. The back-and-forth fight culminated in a spot where referee Dave Hebner was accidentally flattened. Savage went to the top rope and delivered his finisher, the flying elbow smash, covering Steamboat for what looked like an easy 3 count. With Hebner down, the champion decided to take advantage of the situation. Savage attempted to eliminate Steamboat the same way he'd done months earlier. The Macho Man grabbed the timekeeper spell, but this time Steamboat's cornerman George Animal Steele was there. He was there to stop him, grabbing the timekeeper spell. The Macho Man stomped at Steele, getting the bell back. Undaunted, the Animal knocked Savage off the top rope, and it appeared Randy hurt his back. When he went to body slam Steamboat, Savage clutched his back in pain as Ricky cradled him for the 1-2-3. This simple but effective hold made Ricky the Dragon Steamboat the new Intercontinental Champion. It was a magical moment that would set the bar for future WrestleMania matches, as fans and wrestlers wondered if this match could ever be topped. As good as Steamboat vs. Savage was, fans never got to see the two tangled together on WWF TV. Fans did get to see the two compete against each other in steel cage matches at house shows, but nothing else became of it. Sadly, Steamboat's title reign was short-lived, as he asked the WWF for time off to be present when his wife gave birth to their first child. While the WWF agreed, they weren't happy with Steamboat's decision and had him drop the title after just 65 days. Steamboat lost to the Honky Tonk Man in one of wrestling's biggest upsets, with Honky Tonk going on to have the longest reign of all time. Steamboat left the WWF, and while he returned several years later, his career peaked with his Intercontinental Championship win. However, it wasn't a complete wash for the Dragon, as he headed to World Championship Wrestling, where he renewed his long rivalry with Nature Boy Ric Flair. Steamboat and Flair battled each other with the promotion's top prize at stake, the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, with Steamboat eventually winning the title from Flair. While Randy Savage was delighted with his match with Steamboat, he never got to recreate the magic, either with Steamboat or a new partner. At one point, the Macho Man had hoped to work a series with Shawn Michaels, a young superstar whose work impressed Savage. Unfortunately, the WWF was focused on its younger wrestlers, aka the new generation, and it nixed Savage's request for a series with Shawn Michaels. By the time Savage entered WCW, Steamboat had been forced into early retirement due to a back injury. Is Ricky Steamboat vs. Randy Savage the greatest WrestleMania match of all time? There's no doubt that the two superstars put on a masterclass. Indeed, the match was described as an instant classic and earned Match of the Year from Pro Wrestling Illustrated and the Wrestling Observer newsletter. For years, the match stood out as a match that was unlikely to ever be surpassed. Finally, after nearly 2 decades, wrestlers worked matches that may have equaled or even eclipsed it, with Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 25 often being mentioned. Whatever your opinion, Steamboat vs. Savage set the bar high. So high, in fact, that it took decades for anyone to come even close. Savage vs. Steamboat at WrestleMania III not only became an instant classic, it inspired many wrestlers, including Chris Jericho, who wrote in his memoir, Undisputed, "Ever since I first saw Ricky the Dragon Steamboat holding that title when I was in high school, it was my biggest goal to one day be the champion, just like him." WWE Hall of Famer Jeff Jarrett would tell Busted Open Radio, "When you have a match that can still stand the test of time, that speaks volumes. Like in the music industry, sometimes there are classics that go on and on forever." Fans and wrestlers alike will forever debate which WrestleMania match stands out as the best of the best, but any conversation that doesn't include Steamboat vs. Savage just can't be taken seriously. What do you think of the Macho Man vs. Ricky Steamboat match at WrestleMania 3? Which match do you think ranks as the greatest Mania match? Share your thoughts in the comment section and let us know if there's any videos you'd like Wrestling's Greatest Moments to cover. In the meantime, subscribe to our channel, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and spread the good news about Wrestling's Greatest Moments, the channel that celebrates the squared circle.